Listen.
Never in my life associated the word boring with baseball.
We know what's up.
Me? Yeah. Famous? Yeah.
And I'm like giddy over there smiling like, we're about to win this shit.
Did everyone give you crap? Give me a good host story.
I'm not picking it up.
We both love the game.
We talk about it every day.
Getting on baseball.
Having some popcorn, you're fooling around your phone.
I'd have to wait in line for 3 hours.
Hang on, because it's about to be a wild ride.
All right, there's no human being I'd rather be talking to more than Ross Atkins right now, in fact. And it's not only because we share the common bond of knowing what it's like or hearing the stories of Mike Lowell and the Little League. I love those stories, Ross, because you grew up with Mike, right? Correct. Yeah. Congratulations on everything, by the way, on everything that you've done and everything you continue to do.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And we'll get to the very very controversial topic we talk about with all executives about are ketchup flavored potato chips any good, which Alex Anthopoulos is dying on that hill. But I do want to talk a little bit about Mike, because I've done the book with him, and he saw some great stories. But one of the ones that really struck to me is how every Wednesday, his dad, right? That was the day. They were like, we're going to go play baseball and we're going to go get ice cream or something, right after. You probably experienced the Lowell family baseball and ice cream a few times, right?
It's interesting. I think about Mikey all the time with my job, because I think if the industry could appropriately measure passion for baseball and just how much you love it, we would be better as evaluators and identifying talent. Just because it's so important, because of all the reasons you hear about all the time, and people talk about just what a significant commitment it is and how much of your life, how much time it takes up, that if you don't really truly love it, then it's probably not going to go very well. And I remember that about Mikey and his family. His dad was my dentist. If I'm anywhere near Miami, then his younger brother would probably still be my dentist. But that has always resonated with me. Mikey was in Little League Baseball. He was the best player that wasn't as talented as some, that was running around on the field every single day, the most skilled, the most, just the eye hand, the ability to make contact, always doing the right thing as a really young baseball player. His older brother was actually, more talented, just more powerful, hit the ball farther, threw the ball really hard. Everybody was scared to face his older brother, Carlos. But Mikey was just always the skilled player that you hated to face, and that proved to be a really good pick for the Yankees, and then went on to play for some other teams. But special family. They're close to my heart as people, and a big part of the fabric of my baseball evolution too.
It's interesting that you mentioned about how you think about him, think about the type of player he is in your current job. Because I think about him too. Because I see him as the glue guy, the clubhouse guy, the bilingual guy, the guy who, and who was just he was a winning player. And so much, and this is a conversation throughout baseball, Ross, this, is when you're building a clubhouse, when you're building a team, you have to have a little of everything. It can't just be this guy's analytics are off the chart. It's a 162-game season. You need a lot of Mike Lowells, So, I would imagine that you understand that better than most, right?
Yeah, I believe it wholeheartedly. It's finding it and identifying it when they're not within your organization and acquiring. Doing all of those things is just not quite as simple as one might think, and they're not growing on trees. Mikey Lowell was exceptionally talented. He'll probably be upset for me saying this, but an overachiever. Probably exceeded not what he expected to do, but certainly what almost all scouts in baseball expected him to do. And not only did he do it as an individual, but went on to win a couple World Series, be an MVP in the World Series, and that just doesn't happen. That doesn't happen because right guy, right time. That happens because of all the things you're talking about, the decision making, the chemistry, the preparation, and then the work to put himself in good situations.
when the Red Sox traded for him, there wasn't a lot of, when you're trading for a guy, you have a lot of more proof of what you think the guy is going to be. Now, there wasn't that proof. There wasn't proof that Mike was going to pull himself out of this. But now it's different. Like when you're saying identifying guy, you're probably like, okay, we see the underlying stats here. If we do tweak this or tweak that, there wasn't that. But now I would imagine there's a lot of that, right? It's not just, hey, I got this gut feeling and we're going to go with it.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that it is harder and harder to beat teams to, identifying things or opportunities because of the underlying information that essentially everyone has. Not to say that certain teams don't have better information or more robust information to tap into, but you do see the underlying things where you don't have to have an army of scouts identifying and triangulating information in a way that's going to be able to suggest that maybe there's this hope that we can hang our hat on this. Like there is a lot more information available to you to see opportunities like that.
Is it along those lines? Do you find it more difficult to make trades than even 5 years ago?
To me, it's just more difficult to win trades. And, everyone always says you want to do a trade that is good for both teams and they like good baseball trades. But at the end of the day, everyone's trying to win the trade. Everyone's trying to get the better end of the deal. And you stop at probably what's fair, and occasionally you'll maybe do something that is seemingly to the industry a little less than fair, but you still have rationale for that or reasons for that maybe the underlying information or something that you don't think the industry may be aware of about your talent or the other team's talent. But I think in today's game, more teams are speaking the same language again. We went through a bit of a transition where there were some teams that were speaking heavy scout and some teams speaking heavy information and data, and lining up in terms of value was, a little bit less efficient than it is today. So trades at the deadline are you can make them. There's deals everywhere, but you're not going to win them.
No,
maybe as
you're
much.
We're going to pay 2 or 3 times what you want, right?
Yeah. You're gonna have to pay a price that is probably going to be deemed usually as, that's pretty fair for both teams.
So, when you talk about you want to win the trade, but there's a lot of GMs now who want, there's a percentage of what percentage is acceptable of winning the trade. I hear this, this guy wants to win the trade by 75% instead of 51%.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you come across that dynamic too, because listen, I mean, everyone wants to win. That's your point. Everyone wants to win the trade.
Yeah. I think it's just a different language now. So 20 years ago, it was just looking through comparable trades that have happened in the past and trying to sync them up based on industry takes on players and saying, okay, these guys are kind of top 20 talent and we're getting 2 of them for this asset. And now the projections are much more nuanced, and there's public information, there's internal information. And quite frankly, it is pretty efficient because it's pretty similar. You're going to, I think trades happen when there is misalignment. Actually, when there's alignment in value, there's more holding. But if for whatever reason you're valuing a certain acquisition more than the other team, then there's a higher likelihood of that happening. That gap is seemingly happening less because the industry is looking at a lot of similar things, and now we've got to find the next opportunity, and there are teams that are better than that than others, and making sure that you're not hanging your hat too heavily on, I've got to have evidence to make this move. You've got to be willing to take some risk in today's game.
Yeah, well, I mean, well said. And speaking of trades, we're heading from April to May here. And I love the topic. I love asking about May trades because they just don't happen a whole lot. I mean, honestly, when I think of May trade, we're sitting here at Rogers Center, and I remember the May trade that jumped out to me, this is a long, long time ago, 22 years ago, Shea Hillenbrand got traded for Young Kim. It's like on the end of May. Last year, we saw Luis Ariz. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
But for your perspective, when do you even start thinking about trades? Because I know that it's probably not easy to make a trade in May.
Yeah. I mean, they don't really happen. I think Ariz is Adamas maybe late May, about 4 or 5 years ago for Rasmussen and Fireisen like that. Trevor Richards was actually in that trade, but they don't happen, and I think it's because a couple things. One is, everyone will say it's early. We're in April and in May, so you don't want to overreact to a smaller sample size. Having said that, so most teams lean to internal adjustments or internal change. So bringing up a younger player or someone becomes healthy, or just making an adjustment that you find that's more development based. And then the second reason is you're paying a massive premium. So if it's already difficult to line up, if you're going to put a tax on that is beyond just the return of having that player for a longer period of time, it becomes more difficult to do, and it's hard to present to ownership because you're going to step outside of your process.
Does ownership come in and say, like, hey, listen, do we think you're overreacting a little bit? I mean, probably, right?
Yeah, I mean,
because they want assurances. Like not only your owner, every ownership, you have to run things by them. So are we sure? Like, it's early May. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you just think of it in terms of how you present something to ownership, these are massive deals. Even if it's players who aren't making a ton of money, it's still such an impact on your organization, millions and millions of tens of millions of dollars of implications. So, anything like that has to be presented to ownership. I don't know how every ownership situation works, but I would imagine most owners want to see consistency in how you're going about placing a decision in front of them and making one where if they see a big gap in how you're making that decision, that's not going to give them a ton of confidence, and nor should it.
Is it hard? Is it hard, like you said, like it's very, you have to be very disciplined. Forget about May. I mean, in April, you got to be disciplined, right? But is it hard to say, we have to let this play out a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, there is... It's one of the more difficult times in the year for executives because there's only so much you can do, and you need to make sure that you're setting the right tone for your environment. And you can't just sit on your hands either, but you have to find ways to make the organization better that aren't potentially quite as overt.
Yeah. So the great thing for you. It's congratulations again on the Vlad extension. But, when I think about it, I go back to the aforementioned Alex Anthopoulos when I talked to him when he had the Batista and Canarcion dynamic. And he said flat out, it's like, we got this window, right? We get this window. Well, all of a sudden now your window, is got a lot longer because of the Vlad thing.
Yeah.
And when you finally get that done, how important is it? How is the feeling in that respect? Because if you don't get it done, you must be worrying, okay, we have to bob and weave our way through a lot of different things. How important is that having that foundation?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, it is very important. Very glad to have it done. Fired up for Vladdy, fired up for our team, for the fans, for this city, for myself. I mean, it's just, it's so positive for the organization. Having said that, the one thing that matters most is winning. And how you commit to do that, everything matters. So nothing can be at all cost. And when you make decisions in isolation, like you have to be disciplined towards all those decisions so that you can maximize your chance to winning, because there's a lot of ways to do it, as we've seen in today's game.
Sure.
And you just have to ensure that it isn't at all cost in these types of situations.
You don't have to get into particulars, but were you worried? Like, was it worth? Because again, this is a big deal. This is. I would imagine you slept a whole lot better when he said, "Okay, yes."
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing. Vladdy handled it really well. He was extremely professional with me and in all of our interactions. He was not talking about it in the clubhouse. I think there were a few times that he did some interviews where it's so hard. He's such a good person. He gets asked all the time to to be out in front, and he's good at it, and he's done it a lot. So there were some times where some things got drug out of him that became public that was just became a little bit of a distraction in the industry, but he handled it exceptionally well. And I did believe that whether it would have been, 5 months from now or maybe it was this week, but I did believe we were going to get something done because there was no doubt in my mind that Vladdy wanted to be a Blue Jay for life. But I think the Juan Soto signing, some of the things that were happening in the industry and, us coming off of a down year, I think those things were weighing for him. And everyone loves attention, to be seduced, and the thought of coming into Yankee Stadium and coming into the Met Stadium and being essentially serenaded, that he's human.
Yeah.
So those things were going through my head, like, okay, let's see how he handled this. But I did believe, because of his desire to be a Blue Jay, that we were more likely to be getting something done than not.
But that's the instinct thing. I think, man, it's like instincts are so important. It's so important. And because when I was looking at it from afar, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking they have to know, they have to have an idea whether or not this is going to be a reality. I mean, I know that, for instance, the Red Sox went through it with Mookie. They didn't feel like it was going to be, which is fine. But, oh, man, it's good for you. Good instincts. I mean, really.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like, but that's a lot. That's from, I think, your experience and being around the game, and and not only being around the game here, being around the game at other places, and seeing Mr. Lowell or whatever.
Yeah.
But this is it. That's baseball's a lot of instincts. I'm saying.
Yeah, and the thing that's interesting about Vladdy is I've known him well for 10 years.
Yeah.
So he wasn't going to fool me, and I wasn't going to fool him as we were having heart-to-heart interactions. And in the end, I had to believe, what I was hearing and seeing and feeling.
That's so important, like you said, to have that too, because, I would imagine for you, for free agents, you you can't lean on those instincts,
That's
right? I don't know this guy. Hey, welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome, right?
Yeah.
We think you like it here, but
we just spent 4 hours together.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, it's and so that brings me. I want to talk a little bit about another really good acquisition you have with Jeff Hoffman, and this is instincts, but also conviction, right? Conviction is this is the player, this is the role. We know that these other teams didn't view it the same way for the medical stuff or whatever. But again, conviction and instincts with Jeff. Can you take me through that a little bit?
Yeah, that I think there's several layers to that. Just Jeff as a player, he was a former Blue Jay. I didn't know him. He was drafted the year before that I got here, and then he was traded the year before I got here. Drafted a couple years before. But we knew people that knew of him, and then certainly we had scouted him and followed him and had a good feel for the competitor, the person, the teammate. The way that his stuff turned around when he went into the pen, that arsenal's unique, to be able to get right-handed, left-handed hitting out so effectively, the swing and miss, and just the compete. We had conviction that was a very good fit. 3-year deals for relievers at those double-digit figures aren't the most common, and we felt like he was an incredible fit for that type of commitment to us. And as it related to the medical process, it's similar to what I was saying about a trade. If you believe in the people that are working through the information, working through a process to come up with an assessment and evaluation of the risk that you're taking on or not, then you can't react to another team's decision based on that, unless there's something that you learned differently that is changing it. So, that didn't change our view based on the information that we had, and we believed that our medical process was strong, and we're glad he's here.
You've had a wild ride the last couple of years. In a good way, right?
Yeah.
It's just, do you like the job? Do you like? I mean, it seems like you do.
Yeah, man. It's
I know it's all encompassing. I don't know if sorry, not to interrupt, but I don't know if you saw the Netflix thing following around Breslow, right?
Yeah.
It made it seem like he literally had slept an hour a night and never saw his family. I mean, I don't know if that's reality, but I mean, do you like it?
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine doing anything else. I absolutely love it. I think that it doesn't come without a ton of sacrifice and a ton of time away from your family. But what offsets that is the relationships within the game. So the 400, 500 people in baseball operations, the scouts, the coaches throughout our player development system, our analytics team, our very robust coaching staffs and performance staffs these days, some of which now have worked for more than 10 years because some of them I worked with in the past in Cleveland, and those bonds and relationships are like nothing else. Like I can't imagine finding them in other pursuits. I really couldn't. Maybe the military, I don't know, because of just the time and energy spent on a common goal, and face-to-face time with these people. So, more than I've spent more time with Mark Shapiro than I will ever spend with anybody in my life.
Yeah.
There's no way that I'll ever spend more time with another human being because I've been with them for 25 years. So 30 years. 30 years.
30 years?
30 years, yeah.
Wow.
So 5 as a player and 25 in an office. So,
man.
So, because of that, obviously the compete part, the challenge, the energy, just the, really just the competitive aspect of it is very, very attractive and fun. And I think anyone outside looking in sees that. But the sacrifices that you make to do it, I believe, are offset by the internal relationships that make it just so powerful and lasting.
The relationships and the competitiveness, that's never goes away, right? I mean, So, last two things. Number one, you play wiffle ball. This is a terrible segue, but you play wiffle ball with Mikey, right?
Yeah.
Everyone who plays wiffle ball growing up imitates batting stances, right? Yeah. Who was your guy? Who was the guy that?
Oh man!
Or was it just unique? Was it just your own? Like, here's my.
No, I mean probably Steve Garvey, and then I like to turn around and do Donnie too.
Okay,
so,
all right.
But it's funny, man. It's so funny you bring up wiffle ball because we literally, Mikey and I played with our neighbor Guerrero Friggles, who he knew. I met Mikey when I was 7, and he met Guerrero at probably birth, and the three of us played in Guerrero's front yard literally every single day that we could. And then we walk home from school, walk to baseball practice, and before the sun went down, we were playing wiffle ball or ping pong. Well, when the sun went down, we went to play ping pong until Mrs. Friggles sent us home. But man, it was, and you didn't want to be playing against Mikey at any of it.
All right, Steve Garvey. I can do Steve Garvey.
It was a pretty easy one.
Yeah, it's sort of like really like it's kind of like how Steve Garvey presents himself. Very very stern and all right, now the one. Very controversial. You don't have to placate the country that you're living in. It's ketchup flavored potato chips. This came up where we had Alex Anthopoulos on, and I said, Alex, man, I like going to Toronto, but they have those. He's like, those are the best. And then I started asking people, and they're like, it's such a polarizing issue. Although I don't think among GMs it's polarizing. So, but now you've lived here for a little bit. Thoughts? Ketchup flavored potato chips.
I'll be honest. I've had maybe 2 of them.
That's okay.
So maybe that's pretty telling.
Yeah.
Like I think the sweetness to it, not my thing.
It's an acquired taste.
I like it. I like it simple. I don't. I think if you just had a simple salt potato chip, I'm all in. There's a great Canadian brand. It's called Covered Bridge.
Okay.
So see if you can find a bag.
All right.
Just get the sea salt or whatever. Like the most simple, basic one is just money.
All right.
Like the sweetness added to the savory, and it tastes a little cheap.
There's a lot going on there. And also, we had mentioned, I told Hazen he's in the top 15 of GMs of being in shape. So we
he is.
It's top 15. It's on the best. And when I've asked that, who is the guy, the executive, Chris Antonelli. So, he's like it has the same reaction, right?
Yeah, it's
like no, it's
yeah, he is. I mean, Chris is he's into it. He loves it.
Yeah.
He loves fitness. And then he's probably one of the more disciplined human beings.
Did you have to work out with him in Cleveland? Or
Nah, I mean, from time to time,
Yeah.
But he's definitely winning that one.
It's a weird question, but I find it like you talk about the all-encompassing job, and listen, I mean, it's for this baseball season's a long thing. So
I've known Chris now for as long as I've known most people in baseball. Mark a little bit longer. Chris 2 years shorter than that. Hayes maybe 1 year less than that. But Chris is one of the only people I've known that has gotten in better shape.
Really?
Every year.
Wow.
I was just with him right before spring training. I'm like, dude, the guy's stronger again.
Wow. All right. Well,
He's 50 years old.
Listen, we all aspire. Congratulations, man. Well, congratulations to you. I
Thanks,
appreciate
Rob.
everything.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks.